Good evening, everyone. Time is now 7 p.m. I will call the August 25th, 2020 meeting of the Millcreek Township Board of Supervisors to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This meeting is being televised live online via the Millcreek Township Office of Emergency Management Facebook page. Public will be able to participate in the public comment portions of the meeting by phoning in to 833-1111, extension 380. This meeting is being recorded by WQLN and broadcast on Spectrum Channel 1024 and YouTube.com with closed captioning available. Next, we will take any public comment on agenda items other than development or rezoning applications. Okay, hearing no comment, we'll move on to approval of the minutes from our August 11th, 2020 regular meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
And I'll second.
Mr. Owlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Approval of the bills. We have some bills to take care of.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
And I'll second.
Mr. Owlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Bids and quotations. First up is Lindy East Side Paving Project, change order number 3.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Here.
We're seeking permission to pay for a change order from Lindy Paving. This would be for 3 ADA ramps on Clinton Street. They do not meet specifications any longer. The quote is $6,150 and would fall under the Lindy East Side Paving contract. These were inspected by Rob Donikowski in the engineering department, and it was his recommendation that they be rebuilt. So we have a recommendation to approve pay change order number 3 to Lindy Paving contract for $6,150.
Thank you, Gary. Any questions or comments from the board on this?
Just to note, this is being covered from the Planning and Development Department's budget for ADA ramps. They've got, I believe, a $15,000 or $25,000 line item, and that's going to cover the expense.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Do I hear a motion to approve the change order number 3, amount of $6,150 for the paving project?
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Owlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next up is a color copier maintenance agreement. Mark?
Okay, this is a supply agreement, supply and maintenance for a new printer copier for the garage. It's a guarantee of at least 12,000 black copies a year, which means the minimum exposure, and it's also a 5-year agreement. The minimum exposure is, I believe, $150 because there's a difference between color copies and black copies. It's going to be somewhere between $150 and $250 a year for supplies. And things like toner, fusers, drums, all that kind of stuff is included in this, and those are tremendously expensive, so it's not a bad value to have a maintenance agreement to take care of a fairly high volume printer copier.
What's the term of this? 5 years?
5 years.
Any questions or comments on this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I guess my only comment is we have several of these machines in the building. Do we have a separate lease agreement for each machine, or do we just add a machine to the existing lease agreements that we have?
It's usually specific to the machine because it covers essentially the life of the machine.
Okay. I'll second.
Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
How about yes?
And I vote yes. Pre-mark striping. Gary?
Yes, traffic department is seeking to purchase pre-marked striping for Coffee Road. This material is a plastic type material that was melted into the new road surface. Because of the heavy traffic and the many markings such as crosswalk and school zones, this material is very durable and should hold up longer than 1 or 2 seasons compared to the conventional paint. Traffic proposes to purchase this material from Enos Flint for $7,309.44. This is a proprietary material. There is money in the streets department budget to cover the cost of this item. It would be my recommendation to purchase the pre-marked striping from Enos Flint Incorporated at a cost of $7,309.44.
Okay, Gary, so this is in lieu of the paint,
Yes,
our paint truck doing those,
the traffic department actually goes in and heats up the surface of the asphalt and it's melted into it.
okay. High tech. Any questions or comments on this?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
How about yes?
And I vote yes. Traffic signs and posts.
Yes, the traffic department is seeking to purchase 6 yield to pedestrians and crosswalk signs and bases from U.S. Municipal for the cost of $1,776 even under the CoStar's contract number 025-019. There is money in the streets department budget to cover the cost of this item. Once again, these are basically going to go up on Coffee Road for the crosswalks.
Are these, so are these portable signs that sit in the roadway?
No, I don't believe so. I think they're fixed.
They're fixed?
Yes,
Well, they are fixed in the roadway.
yes.
In the, okay, yeah, in the, okay. Any other questions or comments on the traffic signs?
I'll make a motion for approval.
Do I hear a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
How about yes?
And I vote yes. Next, we have an asset management lease. Gary?
Yes, this comes from John Fleming in the IT department. He has recommended the purchasing of a license for an asset management program from Central Square for the cost of $6,000. This program will allow the sewer department camera trucks to interface with the GIS program in the department. We've been having some issues with the 2 systems working together. John has worked diligently with both companies, Lucity being our GIS company. Come to find out there were several updates that hadn't been done. So after those were done, he discovered that we needed this asset management program so the 2 could interface without having to download everything and taking it up to the building.
Okay.
So it would be my recommendation, purchase a license and program from Central Square for $6,000. There is money in the sewer department budget to cover the cost.
Any questions or comments?
Gary, is this a multi-year agreement? I see there's like a maintenance total
Yes,
as
I
well.
believe it's $1,000 per year.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve this agreement with Central Square?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I hear a second on that?
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I'll vote yes.
and I'll vote yes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next up, number 7 on our agenda is public hearing on a land development plan, Erie International Airport, rehabilitation and expansion of the terminal apron, a land development plan to show the rehabilitation and expansion of the terminal apron and associated stormwater management facilities located at 4411 West 12th Street, east of the intersection of Asbury Road in the Erie Municipal Airport Tract, Index 147-004. Mr. Waldinger.
Thank you. Good evening. At the regular meeting of Tuesday, August 4th, 2020, the Millcreek Township Planning Commission recommended approval of this land development with the following requirements: that they provide dimensions of the existing building and the setback requirements on the drawing. Since this Planning Commission meeting, the airport's engineer has submitted new drawings that show these requirements, so they would no longer carry on to your potential approval.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Since this is a public hearing on this, we'll open this up to any public comment. Anybody present wish to speak on this land development plan?
I believe Mr. Martin from the airport's here to present the project.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. This airport rehabilitation expansion project is to allow the airport to continue to allow bigger aircraft in and out of the airport. Starting on September 9th, American Airlines will be increasing the size of their plane from a 50-seat CRJ 200 series to a 76-seat passenger plane, which has first-class seats. The length of the plane is longer, as well as the tail. The wings as well as the tail are longer, which requires more spacing for aircraft to pass behind as they travel between the taxiways, runways, and the ramp area. This will allow us to continue to grow the airport, as well as the airport is investing in the stormwater retention program to capture water that will run onto the pervious pavement. We cannot have standing water on an airfield, so the plan calls for about $1 million investment for a retention system within the airport property.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Martin? Anyone else present wish to comment on this? If not, we'll open up the phone line, take public comment for a short period of time on this.
Mr. Chairman, we're waiting to see if anyone calls. Mr. Walding, were there any comments or questions or concerns from the public at the Planning Commission meeting?
No one spoke at this or appeared for the Planning Commission for this item.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, hearing no further comment, is there a motion to approve this land development plan at the airport?
I'll make a motion to approve the land development plan.
And I'll second.
Mr. Arlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, next up, public hearing on an intermunicipal liquor license transfer. Country Fair Incorporated, 2617 West 26th Street. There, anybody here to speak on this liquor license transfer?
Yes.
Okay.
My name is Paul Raymond. I charge Country Fair locally. We're asking specifically tonight to have a transfer from a City of Erie liquor license that was formerly with Ray's Last Stop, which is closed, to our location at 2617 West 26th Street. Part of this is the whole reason for the transfer and asking for it is our customer demand. Changes in deals have really brought beer and wine for takeout consumption mostly, though we were having to apply for a restaurant license, which we have to, cannot sell inside here during COVID, to really take our mix of the food products we have and add to it. We will ask, and I don't think this is probably the right forum, but I'm prepared to answer any questions on what our proposed upgrades of the building would be to meet this, and how we'd handle our registers, what we would do with the various people that be associated with it. We would very much like to have your approval to transfer a liquor license from the City of Erie to the Township of Millcreek.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, since this is a public hearing, we'll invite any comment. Anybody present would like to comment? And we'll also open the phone line now for anyone wanting to call in and comment on this intermunicipal liquor license transfer request by Country Fair, Inc. Okay, hearing no comment or call-in comment, we will close the public hearing portion of this, and we'll go into the resolution, which is Resolution 2020 R49, a resolution of the Township of Millcreek, County of Erie, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, approving the intermunicipal transfer of Pennsylvania restaurant liquor license number R-15045 into the Township of Millcreek from the City of Erie. Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 2020 R49?
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question
Yes, sir.
for Mr. Shaw and perhaps Mr. Waldinger. I cannot recall, it's been a while since we've approved one of these. I understand there's certain requirements for seating, requirements for register placement, other requirements when these transfers happen. Is it our responsibility to ensure that the location is constructed those specifications, or is it the PLCB's required? I know we've had much more thorough discussions about the development of these things
Yeah,
prior to transfer.
it's the PLCB's, responsibility. The municipality's, sole role in this is to approve or disapprove the transfer. All of the requirements that an entity like Country Fair would have to meet are provided by the PLCB in terms of, square footage and seating and
Right.
training, and all that stuff is really under the PLCB's rubric, and the municipality really has no role in that.
Okay. I recall us having plans previously whenever we've approved these things.
I think parties have provided them as a courtesy, but not necessarily as a requirement.
Okay. Just want to make sure. I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. Mr. Owlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
How about yes?
and I vote yes. Resolution 2020 R50, a resolution pursuant to Resolution 2015 R20, and the Municipal Records Manual to approve proposed disposition of certain township records. This is our resolution for the Millcreek Police Department dash cam videos between August 26th and September 8th. Deletion of those videos due to them, those videos reaching the end of their retention period. Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 2020 R50? Is
So moved.
there a second to that?
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Number 11 on our agenda is Resolution 2020 R51, a resolution to approve the financial statements and independent auditor's report of the Erie Area Council of Governments for the calendar year ending December 31st, 2019. Is there any questions or comments on this resolution? Mark, do you have anything to add to this, or any? This is we do this annually, correct?
Yes, and the auditor's opinion was that the financial statements present fairly in all material respects to the respective financial position of the Erie Area Council of Governments as of December 31, 2019 and 18, and the changes in financial position for the years then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States. So
Okay.
it's a non-qualified opinion.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Well, that's just, it's their procedure. Each member of the COG independently approves and accepts the report, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2020 R51?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Next up, number 12, Resolution 2020 R52, a resolution of the Township of Millcreek, Erie County, Pennsylvania, establishing an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Erie for the provision of a traffic circulation study in Millcreek Township. Matt?
Thank you very much. Yes, this is in relation to a traffic study to be done in the intersections of State Route 505 and 97, Young Road, Old Glomo Park Avenue, and Evans Road on the east side of the township. The municipal planning organization oversees several programs. One of the programs that they oversee is the long-range transportation plan. And in that plan are certain goals that need or are laid out to be met over the course of the plan. In there are certain intersections that were indicated for further study for future traffic improvements. This intersection is one of those areas that was laid out to be improved. And so the township could seek through the MPO some funding in order to do the study to further the long-range transportation plan. Township has done that. The township received a grant from federal highway funds to perform this study. That grant covers 80% of the cost of the study. The township would be responsible for a 20% match. The study is going to be performed through a standing contract that the county has with Whitman, Requart, and Associates. They're a transportation engineering firm out of the Cranberry area. And so through that standing contract, the total cost of the study is $50,000. The township would have $40,000 of that paid by federal highway funds, and we would be responsible for the other 10. Because WRA, the consultant, is contracted through the county, they will actually bill and invoice the county, and then the township will reimburse the county for our portion of the match. So this resolution is establishing a cooperation or an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Erie that states that we will pay the match for this study that's being conducted and initially paid for by the county, reimbursed by the township.
Okay. Thank you for that, Matt. Any questions or comments from the board on this? Do I hear a motion to approve Resolution 2020-R52?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, so did that cover number 13 then as well, with the associate agreement?
Yes, this would be for the board to give the chairman approval to sign the associated agreement with the county, laying out what I just said, that the county would pay the invoices from WRA and the township would reimburse them as we were invoiced for the county's payments.
Okay, so we need to take a separate action on this.
Yeah, I believe you take a separate action to approve the actual agreement.
Okay.
Mr. Waldinger, just so I'm sure, I'm familiar with WRNA's work and the county's work, but will this be a county-managed project, or will yourself and our township engineering team be involved, or in an advisory capacity, or a project direction capacity, or what?
We can direct the project. The county, Emily Alloys, the county's transportation planner, is also involved. But, you know, it's the township that is talking to the consultant, telling them what we're looking for outcomes from this project.
Okay. I guess my only concern is that there's a tendency sometimes for the county or the state to step in and for the locals to take a lesser role in these projects. And not have, let's say, favorable outcomes be the result.
Yeah, no, you know, Engineer Sokol and myself have been on the calls and we'll be directing the consultant.
Thank you, Matt.
Mr. Morgan, the agreement does require, you know, the public Erie MPO, the township, and PennDOT to work collaboratively, so I think there is some limitation on that, or some ability to participate from that perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. I'll make a motion to approve the cooperation agreement.
Okay.
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Number 14 on our agenda is a transfer of funds.
Yes.
Mark?
When the Water Authority was terminated, as part of that agreement, the Erie Water Works settled the bulk water sales with the Water Authority, and most of the $1.4 million that's in that account is the result of that settlement. I mean, there's interest, there's some other water usage and water line lien payments that have come through there as well, but the bulk of the funds are sitting in this account. Prior to this, we were getting a fair bit of interest, but lately the interest rates have fallen significantly. It makes more sense to put this into the investment account where the rest of the proceeds from the Water Authority sale are located and earn a better return on the investment than the 0.38% or thereabouts that we're getting as a money market fund. So what I'm proposing is we move the money from the First National checking account or money market account to the investment account, which is also First National Bank.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions or comments on this? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve this transfer of funds from one account to the other at same bank, First National Bank, from to the investment account from the money market?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Arlett?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes on that.
Mark, we couldn't wait to approve your request.
Okay. Next up is the designate contact for the Wilkins Run DEP permit. Matt?
Yes, thank you. We've been contacted by CEC, who is the consultant that is designing the Wilkins Run Stream Restoration MS4 Pollutant Reduction Project. And they would like to determine the person at the township who, or the, I'm sorry, the person that the township wishes to designate as our contact for the permit that will be required to apply for to modify the stream. So it's my recommendation that the Board of Supervisors appoint Emma George, P.E., who is the township project engineer, as the contact person for this project, for the application to the PA Department of Environmental Protection and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and that you, the board, authorize Ms. George to sign the permit application when prepared on behalf of the township.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Is there a motion to approve Emma George, project engineer, as the contact person, also authorizing Emma George to sign the permit application?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Owlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, next up, we have a sidewalk deferral request. Matt?
Yes, thank you. This is sidewalk deferral for the Premier Surgery Center, who's being developed by Project 2020 LLC. This is in the Niagara Village development. The sidewalk that they're specifically referring to that they'd like deferred is along Zimmerly Road. This piece of property actually has two frontages, one on Village Common Drive in Niagara Village, and then the rear portion is along Zimmerly Road. All of the access to the parcel is off of Village Common Drive. Zimmerly Road is kind of in the rear and down lower. There are currently no sidewalks on Zimmerly Road anywhere along this stretch. And so it would be the recommendation of the Planning and Development Department that you grant this sidewalk deferral at this time.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the sidewalk deferral request from Premier Surgery Center?
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second.
Mr. Owlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. Next up, we have Stormwater Management Plan and Maintenance Agreement Approval Request. First one is the MCH Corporation Off-Site Parking, MCH Corporation Developer. Want to take them one at a time, Matt? Or?
Yeah, I would please.
Okay. Do that one
Yes,
first.
the first one, as you mentioned, is the MCH Corporation Off-Site Parking. That is Millcreek Community Hospital development at the corner of 54th and Peach Street. They have submitted their stormwater management plan. It has been reviewed by Greenman Peterson Incorporated, our third-party reviewing engineer. Greenman Peterson has issued us a letter saying that the plan complies with our stormwater management ordinance. They have also submitted to the township on the proper form a stormwater maintenance agreement signed by the corporation. And so at this time, I would recommend that you approve the stormwater management plan and the stormwater maintenance agreement for this development.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve this stormwater management plan and maintenance agreement?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Owlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, we have another request from Greenleaf Corporation Airport Hangar from the Erie Regional Airport Authority.
Thank you. Yes, similarly, Greenleaf Corporation has submitted a request, has submitted a stormwater management plan for the hangar they intend to build on the airport property. The stormwater management plan also was reviewed by Greenman Peterson. We do have an approval letter from them stating that it meets our ordinance. We have a stormwater maintenance agreement signed by Greenleaf Corporation, agreeing to take maintenance responsibility for the facilities. So at this time, I would like to, let me correct myself. The stormwater maintenance agreement is actually with the airport authority because this is on airport property, and ultimately it's the property owner's responsibility to be responsible for maintenance. So we do have a properly signed agreement from the airport authority claiming that they will provide maintenance. So at this time, I'd like to recommend that both the stormwater maintenance plan or management plan and the stormwater maintenance agreement be approved by the board.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Do I hear a motion to approve this stormwater management plan and accompanying maintenance agreement? for the airport.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, number 18 on our agenda, exclusion from land development plan. Request from Bayfront Nephrology Incorporated and DaVita Dialysis Incorporated for an addition at 2563 West 8th Street. Matt?
Yes, thank you. As you mentioned, Bayfront Nephrology and DaVita Dialysis have requested to add an addition of 1,700 square feet to the south end of their current DaVita Dialysis Center located on West 8th Street. This is a property immediately to the west of the old Villa Maria campus. This application for exclusion has been reviewed by the township engineer and the zoning and development office. It has, we do have a certification from the engineer that they meet the qualifications for an exclusion from land development. And so at this time, I'd like to recommend that the board approve that exclusion.
Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve this land development exclusion for Bayfront Nephrology, Inc. and DaVita Dialysis, Inc. for their addition on West 8th?
I'll make the motion.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. Okay, next up, we have exclusion from land development plan from NIBE
I believe so.
Dentistry for their addition at 3325 West 26th Street.
Thank you. Yes, NIBE Dentistry has submitted a land development exclusion request to add a 503 square foot addition to the north side of their building, which is located on West 26th Street. This also has been reviewed by the township engineer and the zoning and development office. We have a certification from the Millcreek Township Engineer and Sokol that this meets the requirements for a land development exclusion. So at this time, I would recommend that the board approve the exclusion for this project.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve this exclusion from for NIBE Dentistry, their addition at 3325 West 26th Street?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
and I vote yes. Number 19 on our agenda is the 2020 CDBG agreement with Erie County. Mr. Waldinger?
Yes, thank you. This agreement is between the township and the county of Erie, and it lays out the details for the county's administration of Millcreek Township's fiscal year 2020 Community Development Block Grant Program. This agreement runs for the 2020 federal fiscal year, which began on July 1st and ends June 30th of 2021. Under the terms of this agreement, the county would be compensated by retaining an amount not to exceed $30,000 from the township's CDBG allocation. This represents approximately 11.5% of our allocation, and by HUD guidelines, these administration fees are capped at 18% of a grantee's allocation. So it is my recommendation that the board approve this agreement with the county and that the chairman be authorized to sign it.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions or comments on this proposed CDBG agreement?
I guess my only question is procedurally, isn't this done during our CDBG approval process, or is this something that is always done after the feds have approved the plan and then we have to enter this agreement with the county? Is this for next year?
This is actually for
CDBG, or
next
this-
year, yes. Yeah, because what the funds we're receiving now are really fiscal year 2019
Okay.
funds, yes.
All
So
right.
this would be for next year's program.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve this agreement?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Arlett,
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan,
I vote yes.
And I vote yes as well. Number 20 on our agenda is sale of parcel from the county repository, 3434 West 11th Street. Mark, you want to handle
Yes,
that
we
one?
received a request from the county to exonerate taxes, the township portion of the taxes on 3434 West 11th Street. It's currently in the county land parcel repository. Surprisingly, this is not a trailer. It's an empty lot, and the person wants to buy the land and build on it, build a home on it. So the amount of taxes that we would be exonerating, and it goes back several years, is $981.90. By putting a building, a structure on there, we should make that tax exoneration up fairly quickly, and it's would help because now you just got an open lot, and it's always better to have a house on it than just an open lot.
Yeah, this was a property that was demolished. It was a blighted residence. There was a lengthy court proceeding that took place with this, I believe, and it was finally demolished, and that improved the area in and of itself. And now, if we could, there could be a residence actually put a new one put up there, would very much enhance the neighborhood. Okay, any questions or comments on this? Is there a motion to approve the, it's for tax forgiveness, correct?
Correct.
Tax forgiveness in the amount of $981.90
Correct.
for this property on West 11th.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Mr. Owlette?
I vote yes.
Mr. Morgan?
I vote yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, next up. Treasurer Communications, anything, Mark?
No, I have nothing further.
Okay. And looks like we have a request from Mrs. Lyons from HR.
Mr. Chairman, I'll handle that.
Okay.
I was on vacation last week. An issue came up personnel related that was placed on the agenda. I've discussed the issue with Ms. Lyons, Mr. Krzewski, and that's actually an issue that can be handled administratively. It does not require a vote from the board. So,
Okay, sir. Thank you for that. Executive sessions were held August 13th and August 20th of this year. Mr. Shaw, anything further?
No, nothing on my end.
Okay. Next up is citizens to be heard. Are there any citizens present in the audience that would like to speak this evening? Sir? Okay. Okay, could you just state your name and address for the record, sir?
My name is John Police, 3789 Timbercrest Court, Erie, PA. I represent the Timberwood Estates Association. People in Timberwood want to say thank you to you for helping us. We met with the supervisors on April 17th of 2012 and went over some of the problems that we were having. We met with the engineers on May the 11th of 2013. We sent a letter to the fire chief in 2015, and I believe the fire chief did send a letter to the township with a recommendation of what we were asking him for. And that was Mr. Olette. The problem with our islands, as the President Association, I didn't, and I'm on the planning, I never saw the markings on the sheet showing these islands. And what happened was we took them for granted, and then started to have a problem on February the 15th. I had to call the ambulance and dial 911. And at that day, they had a small snow, and they could not fit on the street, and they couldn't get in my driveway. First time I understood that when we needed security, I didn't have it. And therefore, we took my wife to the hospital, and the rest is history. Then they had, on the islands at the front, we had 2 lights. One of them got crushed, and we made a report to the township, and Dick will show you that, have that to you, and gave it to the Millcreek Police. Then what happened, they decided to change the entrance. And what they did, they had an entrance, I don't know who did this engineering work, but it made it worse to come into Mr. Zahner's yard because it was taking a turn and tore up his whole front yard. So that didn't work at all. Now, last week they put in a gas line. They're going to have the handicap parking, or handicap entrance on the corners. So now we have a 3-foot tall blue pipe right in the island. And let's see. Dick, I'm going to have Dick go over some of this with you. We have our way of computers, but we have Dick's new way.
Well, with the damage with the light that happened, we didn't have any overhead plans, so I made a very intricate drawing of the curb, and the last page shows the markings and the scrapes that the plow made before it hit the light. And the township has the main blade on the plow, and it has the 2 wings that go up when it comes into the subdivision. And a lot of times when it turns into our subdivision, going north on McCreary, the wings are up, and the way the plow's curved and coming in, it hit the, it looks like it hit the curb, and the curvature made the gouge in the middle of the curb, scraped along the top, and then it knocked down the light. We had a police report from Officer Passerati earlier this year, and showed it to him, and he said because there was no one that he could see that did the damage, he couldn't take it any further. But the problem was there's nobody that plows in our neighborhood that has wings on their plows. It's only a township plow that has wings. So we wanted to get some compensation for the damage that the plow made, that's the one point that I wanted to talk about. And the other thing, to back up what John had to say, is the pictures. We were asking for a reduction so there's more room for any fire trucks to come in, emergency vehicles, to get into our neighborhood. There wasn't any thought on how much room they really needed to get down through our subdivision, and if there's a car parked there, if there's a havoc and congestion right up near the front. So we like the 12-foot islands cut down to 7 foot, and I put a tape on for 7-foot markings, in which I drew in 2 of the pictures, and that would give more room on each side for a larger vehicle to get down the sides. They've already cut out a center section so that people that are along those islands can actually back out of their driveway. there were two residents that couldn't even get out of the driveway. So this is, John said, since, what was it, 2012, this has been an ongoing process to get this right. And that's all we're asking for is a little bit of work on that, so emergency vehicles can get in there and out, and the neighbors aren't constantly redoing their front yard because of the turns that the larger trucks. And it's, with the pandemic, every second vehicle is FedEx, UPS, and the larger vehicles coming into our neighborhood now that are tearing up the lawns. And on the other side of the street, you can, I can get a picture of that, but you can see the tracks going halfway up the hill. So those are the two items that we're looking for, is relief on the islands in the middle, and a little help with the light on our subdivision side.
You know, going back on the engineering department, they did come out in 2015, and that was the fourth time. And what they did, they put markings on each one of the islands, and they showed us what a 6-foot island would look like and what a 7-foot island. They would leave wouldn't touch the light poles that are there, but there's a telepole on McKee Road, McCreary. So that is the problem. Now we have a gas pipe right next to that pole. But the island itself, the engineering department made red markings for a 6 or a 7-foot best, and only leave the lights, and we would take the shrubs and plant them elsewhere. And that was in 15, but the markings are there. The curbs are all cracking because every time a plow comes through, it's that we have 3 or 4 cracked that we can't do anything with them. So we're asking for something to be done if they can only work with us.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Police.
Mr. Waldinger, do you have access to your VPN down here? The original plans for the subdivision, what the gentleman provided indicates it was built in 2002. Is that accurate?
I don't have a copy to see what was provided, but I would, can I just come up and take a look?
Yeah.
There.
Well, the signature is September 10, 2002. Gentlemen, we're all in our first terms. None of us were there in 2002. But are you saying that these boulevards were constructed by the township later? Is that what you're saying?
Am I saying that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Did the township construct these boulevards?
No, we constructed it. I think the developer did.
The developer developed or built the islands from what the specs were approved by the township.
Well, the township wouldn't dictate how large the islands are, correct, Mr. Waldinger?
Yeah, if I could just speak to that for a minute after looking at the drawing you showed me. What you showed me was the subdivision drawing that laid out the dedication of the roads and the road and the lots. That just shows the 60-foot right-of-way at the entrance.
Okay.
It does not show, cartways, other details. Yeah, that's what he showed me. Thank you. Along with these, this is the recorded subdivision plan that he just gave me a copy of, which is a portion of what you have there. But along with these drawings are submitted to the engineering department construction drawings that do show the different facilities, infrastructure. I do have here in front of me a copy of the construction drawing that does show that there were 2 islands constructed at the entrance there, separated by a 38-foot break in the middle. The islands have a width of 15 feet, and then there's 14 feet of cartway on either side of them to get through.
The major problem we have is, thank God we didn't have a bad winter, but when we have a plow on the right, south side of our subdivision. There are trees planted on the islands on the north side of the sidewalks. So you can't go south because you'll hit the trees. So leaves us about a 7-foot street when the plows are with the snow. So like we had, a couple times we had to have the fire trucks in there and they made their own tracks. But for safety reasons, we've got to be looking at this a different way than what we've been doing.
Well, I guess Matt, when boulevards are constructed by a private developer, are they conveyed to the township as well? Is there an easement that they're owned by a homeowner association, or?
It is within the right-of-way. They are, it is accepted as a right-of-way feature when the road is accepted by the township. They are curbed islands, with grass planted inside of them, and there are at least 2 telephone poles in there. It looks like there's 1 mainline pole and then a pole with an anchor on it. That's mainly, it appears to be the reason that at least the boulevard was placed closer to McCreary, because those were existing poles, and I think they put the boulevard there so that they could come through on either side of them.
And there's 2 14-foot lanes according to the plans?
Yes, the pavement is 14 feet wide on each side, north and south of the boulevard.
The entire width is 60, you said?
The entire width,
60 feet?
the right-of-way is 60 feet, yes. But all of this that we're discussing now is centered within the right-of-way.
I guess, gentlemen, a state highway has a 12-foot lane. I'm not sure how much wider you need a lane to be if it's 14 feet on each side of that boulevard.
2 years ago, John, we had a gentleman that bid on it, that was gonna move the cement around each island and let Millcreek blacktop it, but he would do all the work and he submitted a bid. But I guess he wasn't on the bid nominating list. So when the township came in and they did the entranceway on the north side, south side of the street. And when they did that, they cut an angle.
You're saying the township altered those boulevards?
Yes.
Yes.
When was that?
The south side about 2 or 3 years ago. You can see the picture where all the paint job, the spray paint for the electric and all that is located where the, about a 60-degree angle on the south, on the entrance. And you can see where it was blacktop, where it was kind of squared off. That would have been on the second page after the
I'm looking at it.
drawings. That was done by the township.
Gary, do you recall that being done? Yeah, he's talking about this right here.
If I recall, I believe that concrete was broken there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a big V on it.
Right. And it was, the reason it was altered, the way it was altered was to help with the ingress of that side of the street, if I remember correctly.
So it might have to do with the entrance of the plows getting into the subdivision.
There are 4 lots as you come in our subdivision on the south side of Timbercrest. And you back out in traffic that's coming into the subdivision. And so there's many times we just merely miss some accidents there because there's nowhere else to back out. You're backing out on the street.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Police. Perhaps this is something we can discuss further,
Like I said, our recommendations that were hashed out a couple years ago were to narrow them to 7 feet, to give the road more room for the larger vehicles in the emergency, and the plow in the wintertime especially, to stay off private property and digging up their lawns. And it sounded like a plan
Okay.
that would be workable.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other citizens to be heard that are present here tonight? We'll open the phone lines. 833-1111, extension 380, if there are any citizens to be heard. We'll open up for calls for a brief period of time. Okay. Hearing no further calls. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion?
Motion?
I'll second.
Second? We are adjourned at 8:02 p.m. Thank you and good night.